it was 59, almost 60 years ago, it'll be 60 years this year, that I picked this book up. And almost from the beginning, it just snapped, it grabbed my attention. And if there's any mother or father out there who has a teenager or a young person in their early 20s, and you just think they're never going to wake up, keep believing in them, because my mother kept believing in me. And I gave her all kinds of reason to think that I was never going to straighten out. But when I got that book, it wasn't just the book, it was Ray Stanford. Ray, he indicated and he demonstrated that he had a belief in me that was way beyond the belief that I had in myself. And as I got into this book and studying the idea that the book contains, and the idea is that there's a very big you locked up inside. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. There is perfection within you. And you are truly God's highest form of creation. And I don't care how much you've messed up in the past, you can change all that. Now, I'm going to be talking today about the laws. And I want to suggest that you study the laws of the universe and then make up your mind you're going to live in harmony with these laws. Now, I'm not going to go through all the laws. I will touch on each one of them to let you know what the laws are. But there's one law I'm going to focus on, and has a lot to do with what's going on in the world today. And hopefully it will help you see it from a totally different perspective. It's a matter of thinking. We really must begin to think. I remember working with Earl Nightingale. You may have heard me quote him before, and I've quoted him so often. And he said, if most people said what they were thinking, they would be speechless. Now, when you hear that, just say, well, everybody thinks. Do you know, the God's truth is that hardly anyone does. I want you to think about this. Really think. Don't just take this as some slick line. Dr. Ken McFarland said 2% of the people think, 3% think they think, and he said 95% would rather die than think. Henry Ford said that thinking was the hardest work there is, which is the probable reason so few people engage in it. Most people do not think. Now, if you doubt me, stop and think of some of the people you know. Would they do what they're doing if they were thinking? Would they? I don't think so. Listen to most conversations that are going on. Would they say what they were saying if they were thinking, if they had even the basic understanding of how the mind functions? I'm quite certain that they would never say or do what they're doing. Now, I want to suggest that we learn to control the flow. Learn to control the flow of this thought energy and let it flow freely to and through us, improving everything that we come in contact with. You see, this power that's flowing through us, it's an infinite power. And it has no direction. It just is. We were given the mental faculties that gives it direction. Now, hopefully, as I go through this, you'll understand that a little better. But we want to learn to control the flow of the energy coming to and through us. Now, I want you to look at the mind and look at paradigms. Your paradigm is probably a big problem for you. It is for me. The paradigm is that program in our subjective mind that's literally controlling our behavior. And we've got to take control away from it. You see, somebody else made that paradigm. We didn't make it. Somebody else wrote the code for the paradigm that's controlling our life. In some cases, it was previous generations, going right back to your great-grandparents. Now, when you look at how we're living today and stop and think, I remember my great-grandmother and grandfather, Grandpa and Grandma Graham. They were dear old souls. When I was a little kid, I used to go see them. I had all my grandfathers and all my grandmothers were all alive at one time. And, well, I was here. And, And I think it's some of the things they would be shocked. They would think they hit a different planet if they were alive today. Well, a lot of their thinking is programmed right into our mind. So look at your mind and look at paradigms. Now, no one knows what the mind looks like. There's no one alive, no one has ever seen the mind. All we see is expressions of the mind, the manifestation of the mind. See, mind is movement. Body is a manifestation of that movement. This lectern here, that you can't see because of the slide, it's stuff. It's a thing. But at one time, it was nothing but thought energy. This book, at one time, was nothing but thought energy. And it was transferred into a book. The studio that I'm in, at one time, was just thought energy. But now it's a studio. Well, I started to study the mind when I get into this. Hill talked about the mind in here, talked about the subconscious mind, and I read all kinds of books on it. But it was like I had ideas all over the place, and I couldn't really understand it. I never understood it until I came across the drawing I'm going to show you here. Val Vanderwall showed me this. He gave me this. He changed my life with this drawing. Now, this is Dr. Truman Fleet. Way back 1934, the year I was born. I know you find it hard to believe, but I'd still be alive if I was born in 1934. But that's the year I was born. And Dr. Truman Fleet was very involved in the healing arts and very involved in holistic health. He really understood the spiritual side of our personality and how it becomes the physical side and all that. And he said that the mind is not a thing. Mind is an activity. And nobody's ever seen the mind. So he said, one of the great problems we have is we're treating symptoms as if it's the cause of the problem. And we do that in almost everything in our life because we don't really see what's going on inside. So he says, I'm going to draw a picture of the mind. And this is the picture he drew. And then he took the big circle and divided it into two parts. He said that will represent the mind, and the small circle will represent the body. Now, you've probably heard me go through this before, but I've been through this a million times. You cannot go through this too often. If I was looking at you or watching you, if I was communicating with you, I would have your head in two parts, and that would be the mind. Everything from the neck down plus your face would be your body. And I would be studying you very closely. I want to know what's going on inside. If I'm communicating with you, I want to know why you're doing what you're doing. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? Not judging, just trying to understand. How could that be? Why would that happen? And you use this drawing to help you with that. Now he said, there's the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Now without question, I said, it's been almost 60 years. This is the most valuable idea in all that time. Alfred Adler said, I'm grateful to the idea that has used me. Well, I'm grateful to this idea. I can assure you I'm grateful to it. Now let's take a look at how it works. And this is very important for this is just the base. This is just helping us understand what it is I want to share with you today. The conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Now the conscious mind is your thinking mind. That's the part of you that thinks. You have a faculty in there that can think. And we've got to learn to use this faculty, and most of us don't. We're not taught about it. We're not taught about the faculties of the mind. You see, this is the educated mind. The educated mind is, it's what the school really loads up for us, you see. We've got to fix that slide too. And that's where intellect is resident. And then the subconscious is the emotional mind. Now the emotional mind is, I've just figured out what happened, Scott. You made the slide bigger and that's thrown it all off. Maybe I'll have to take it back to where it was. If you could do that now, because I'm a little leery of what's going to happen with all the font in the future. If you could take the slide back, we made the slide a little bigger in preparing this, and that's what's showing the fonts off. They go with the slide. At any rate, okay, if you can bring that back up. Well, it's not doing it. But at any rate, the subconscious mind is the emotional mind. And the conscious mind gives direction. Now, the subconscious mind has no ability to reject information. It has no ability to reject. It must accept whatever you give to it. It cannot reject. Now, this is an important part. The subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what is real and what's imagined. It cannot differentiate. Scott, I think we're going to have to take the time, and the audience, I'm going to ask you to bear with us, if you would make that slide the way it was right when we started, before we made it larger. And I think as you turn that, if you take that slide back the way it was, you're going to find the fonts will all fall in place. I'm almost certain. Well, I guess it won't. It's the way it's there. That's okay. Let it go then. All right. Now, let's go here for a moment. Here we are here. We are being inundated today. Now, we talked about we have the ability to choose. We can choose. We can think anything we want. We are being inundated today through social media, through other people, Netflix, podcasts. We're being inundated with information. Now, we've got the ability to think. When that information comes into our consciousness, we should ask ourselves, do I really want to spend a lot of time thinking about this? It's terrible information. We get all the statistics of how many people are dying in Sioux Falls, Idaho. Now, should I care about this? Listen, should I ignore it? I should not ignore it, but I should not dwell on it. If there's something going on outside that I cannot control, and it's very destructive and it's very negative, I should not focus on it. Now, that doesn't mean I ignore it, but I'm just not going to focus on it. And when that information comes at us, and it's coming at us constantly, you turn on some news stations and that's all you're going to hear. Oh, that's all you hear, 24 hours a day. I think what we should do is say, get out of here and kick it out of our mind. But we don't. This is what we do. We leave our mind open, and that stuff goes right into our emotional mind. And our subjective mind is taking that in, and it's affecting every cell of our being. Why would we do that? We do it because we're programmed to do it. We're literally programmed to do it. It's our paradigm. How did that happen? Well, close this for a moment. Look over here. Here you are as an infant. Whatever's going on around you goes right into your subconscious mind. Whatever's going on. And that's how the paradigms form. See, the paradigm is a multitude of habits that are fixed in our subconscious mind. And you know, I get the feeling, I do pick up intuitively, a lot of people are saying, well, you just can't ignore, Bob, what's happening in the world. No, you can't, and I'm not ignoring it. But what I'm saying is, you know, all the great leaders all down through history have said we become what we think about. When you get emotionally involved in information like that, and you stay emotionally involved, it causes you physical problems. First, it causes you mental problems, and those mental problems manifest in the physical body. Well, we've been programmed to let the outside world control us. All the great leaders, all down through history, all the religious leaders, they have all told us we should be controlled from inside, but we don't do that. We let the outside control us. And that's rather sad. And that's what the paradigm is. It's a multitude of habits. Multitude of habits. You know, they're programmed into our subconscious mind that control our habitual behavior. Almost all of our behavior is habitual. So that's sort of sad, but that's the way it is. Now let's think for a moment. Let's take a look at the natural laws of the universe. Now I'm just going to touch on these, and then we're going to come back and we're going to focus on one. The natural laws of, first of all, you can go and study this anywhere. There is but one great law: God is. There's only two references to go to, one's science and one's theology. Now, at one time, we thought science and theology were antagonistic. The truth is they're really not. They're very compatible. As Dr. Werner von Braun said, that the natural laws of the universe are so precise that we don't have any difficulty building spaceships. We can send people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. He said these laws had to be set by someone. And he said, after studying the spectacular mysteries of the universe, I've come to a firm belief in the existence of God. So we're talking about either energy is or God is. It just is. It is neither positive or negative. And as it flows into our consciousness, it just is. Now, that is the one great law. Then there's these laws, subsidiary laws, that go along with it. There is the law of perpetual transmutation. What does that mean? It means that spirit or energy is always moving into form. It's always moving. If you go outside on a bright, clear day, you will see a cloud formation. And if you stay there long enough, you'll see from the cloud formation possibly water will come. Andrew Carnegie said, any idea that is held in the mind, any idea that's held in the mind, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. All the great leaders all through history have been completely in agreement that we become what we think about. What are you thinking about? That is what's moving into form in your life. Then we have the laws, the rest of them, the law of relativity. Nothing's big or small except our thinking makes it so. The room I'm in is not large or small, it just is. It's only going to be large or small if I compare it to somebody else. Now, there's a coat closet here in the studio. If I were to compare it to the closet where the coats are hung, then this studio part would be very, very big. But if I compare this studio part, let's say, to the ballroom in a hotel, then this would become very small. Everything's relative. Nothing's big or small. Nothing's good or bad except our thinking makes it so. So as we keep looking at these laws, then you have the law of polarity. Now, I'm just going to skip right by that because that's the one we're going to focus on today. We're going to come back to that. You also have the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm, everything's flow, up and down, ebbs and flows. The tide goes out, the tide comes in. The night follows the day. You know, the leaves come on the tree, the leaves fall off the tree. And it's a law of rhythm. You're going to have your biorhythm. You're going to be high and low, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. You're going to find days when you're just got all kinds of strength, and there's other days you just sort of feel dragged out. You could be on a low swing. This affects everything in life. The law of rhythm is very real. We want to understand it. Then we have the law of gender. The law of gender decrees that all seeds have a gestation or an incubation period. There's a certain period of time must elapse before the seed moves into form. The law of gender decrees you have to have both male and female to have anything. Both are present in everything and must be for anything to even exist. Now keep thinking. I want you to really think about what I'm saying. We're talking about the law of cause and effect. That law, where did he go? The law of cause and effect. I don't know what caused that. Anyway, the law of cause and effect is a very, very important law. Emerson said it was the law of laws. For every cause there is an effect. Every effect there is a cause. And you have a train of causation. It's the image in your mind become the cause, and the results you're getting the effect. That's why James Allen, he said, we think in secret and it comes to pass. Our environment is but our looking glass. And then we'll come back here now to the law of polarity. The law of polarity is a very interesting concept. It truly is an interesting concept. Now let's look at it from this point of view. There's a power flowing into your consciousness, and you can make it negative or positive. But get this, when that power flows in, it's a thought power, you can think. You turn it into whatever you want. Now your paradigm may be dictating what you're thinking. It may control your perception of what's going on. But as this thought power flows in, you think. Either you're thinking or you let somebody else's thinking control what's going on in your mind. Okay? Now let's look here for a moment. Okay? Here, we take a look at this power. Here's an effective 3-step strategy, for staying in control of your life regardless of what happens. Now, if you see down the bottom, it's pretty small print, you may not be able to see it. This, we give credit to Dr. Bernard Beckwith. Dr. Bernard Beckwith is a very good friend of mine, and he gave me this. I've used this so often. This is a 3-step process to staying in control regardless of what's happening in your life. Now, there's a lot happening in your life and my life right now. So we'll let this line represent any situation that might happen in your life. The line represents any situation that might happen in your life. Now, the law of polarity decrees everything is both bad and good. In truth, it's neither, it just is. So let's keep thinking. Now, I want you to think. The positive sign is the symbol for the good. The negative sign is the symbol for the bad. So we've got both the bad and the good there in front of us. Now, everything that's happened is going to fall in one category or other. The truth is, everything just is. Everything is. Nothing is bad or good except our thinking makes it so. Now, stay with me. If something's only a little bad, when we mentally work our way around to the other side, it's only a little good. You see, if it's just a little problem, it's going to be fairly easy to solve, and the opportunity in it will be small. If you've got a big problem, then the opportunity is going to be equally as big. You see, real sharp business people are always looking for big problems to solve, because the big problem gives us a big opportunity. It's the polar opposite of the same thing. It has to be. Now stay with me here for a moment. When anything happens, here's the three-step process. It is what it is, accept it. It's either going to control you or you're going to control it. Now, I've been locked down here since sometime in, middle of March. I have not been in the car. I haven't gone anywhere. I am quarantined. Now, I'm very fortunate because my studio is right here in my own piece of property. I can just wander out here, and I do every morning around 5:30. So I take a look at what's happening. It is what it is, accept it. You're either going to control it or it's going to control you. Thank you, Scott. Now, let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, harvest the good. Harvest the good. Keep thinking. The more good you look for, the more you're going to find. God is good all the time. So start looking for the good in this situation. You may say, well, there just isn't anything. There has to be. There has to be good in every situation. If it's a big problem, you're going to have trouble finding it possibly, but it's there. And number 3, forgive all the rest. Forgive it. Forgive means to let go of completely, abandon. Abandon. Just let it go, and the good will grow. You see? Now, stay with me here. With those thoughts in mind, I want you to go through this exercise that I'm going to show you here now. There's power flowing in. We're operating with an awareness. There's a problem outside. For every one of us, I don't care where you're living, there's a problem outside. What can you do about it? Well, you can protect yourself from it as best you can. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm staying quarantined. I've not been to the store. I haven't been anywhere. I go from the house to the studio to the house, but it's all within a 50-foot walk of each other. So you see, that doesn't mean that I'm ignoring the problem. I'm letting the people look after the problem, know how to look after the problem. I'm trusting in them, okay? I want to stay focused on what is good. What can I do? How can I help? And I've been putting this together and trying to show you that you can do what I'm doing. You can do it. Now, when this power flows into you, you can think, and you can think anything you want. If you're going to use it the wrong way, you're going to be in trouble. We want to control the flow of the thought energy. That's what we're talking about here. We want to get it flowing freely to and through us, okay? Now, you've got a choice. You can look at the left, at the negative, or you can look at the positive. But it is your choice. It's a choice you make. Now, on the left side is, we say, ignorance. On the right side is the knowledge. Anything we don't understand, we have a tendency to criticize or ridicule. Let's try and understand it. Let's try and understand. You see, when that power flows in, you can do one of two things. You can understand it and take control, or you can let the problem control you. Now, if you let the problem control you, if you're going to read everything that's in the paper, if you're going to listen to everything you hear on the news, you're probably going to end up worrying. You're probably going to end up doubting, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's a lot of people may be having financial problems right now. I would imagine most people in restaurants are. You know, a lot of families. But that doesn't mean we should doubt and worry. Now, there is an answer. I'm going to show you what happens when you stay locked in on that polarity. You have taken a power that flows in that has no form. It's a creative power. It's pure and unadulterated spirit. It's flowing into our consciousness. And we're building a negative idea. Then we turn it over to our emotional mind. What did I say back when we showed you this first? We said the subconscious mind has no ability to reject. It is totally immoral. It'll accept whatever you give. It's like the earth. I loved the way Earl Nightingale put it on the Strangest Secret record. He said, you can plant corn, and right beside it, not a 16th of an inch away, you can plant nightshade, a deadly poison. One will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. The earth doesn't care what you plant, but it will grow what you plant. Your subconscious mind doesn't care what you plant, but it will grow what you plant. We have been given the responsibility of looking after ourselves. Now, when you impress worry and doubt on your subconscious mind, you set up an emotional state we refer to as fear. Now, remember, let's follow it. It came into our consciousness, came in, we had a choice, and we're worrying. And we take the worry and we turn it over to subconscious. We impress it upon the subconscious. Whatever's impressed must be expressed. It expresses itself as anxiety. Now, that anxiety is not expressed. We don't talk about it. You know what we do with anxiety? We suppress it. We bottle it up inside. Now, when you bottle anxiety up in this instrument of yours, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have problems in your body. The body is not designed to contain that for any period of time. It just isn't. The suppression then turns to depression. When you keep it locked up, that's where depression comes from. The depression causes a physical thing called dis-ease. It's a body that's not at ease. And the dis-ease, of course, causes disintegration. Now, why would a person do that? We'll go right to the top of the problem here. It's ignorance. It's not understanding the mind. It's not understanding themselves. Now, I have spent since 1968 teaching this. Every day I study and attempt to teach it. I've been studying it since 1961, but by 1968 I became so fascinated with this, I had to go to work with Earl Nightingale. I just had to go to work with the man. I had been studying his material for so long, and he and Lloyd Conant, they really got me locked up. I was listening to Earl today. He was talking about when the business gets into you. You struggle if you're in the business until the business gets into you. Then there's no struggle. This business is in me. It's all that's going on in my mind all the time. I've been working at it for years. Now stay with me here. Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Based on understanding. Let's look here. What's the opposite of doubt and worry? The opposite of doubt and worry is understanding. That is the opposite of doubt and worry. How do you get understanding? There is only one way. And it's happening right now. We're studying right now. Study is the only way to develop understanding. Solomon was a very bright king. He said, in all you're getting, get understanding. Let's understand what's going on. Let's understand what happens to us when we focus on something as negative as what's going on in the world today. It doesn't mean we ignore it. It doesn't mean we say it's not there. That is silly. It is there. But we do know that if we cannot change it, what can we change? We can only change ourselves. In fact, you're the only corner of the universe that you can change. So we got to look after ourselves. Understanding leads to faith, which is the polar opposite of fear. Now think of this. Both faith and fear demand that you believe in something you can't see. You got to have faith that there's a power within you. If you use your God-given faculties that you were blessed with, that separates you from all of the rest of the animal kingdom. If you use them the way they're designed to use, you can keep yourself in very good shape. It's kept me going for 86 years. And I'm trusting it's going to keep me going longer. Now that faith manifests in what we call well-being on the physical level. Remember where I said the anxiety is suppressed? Well-being is not suppressed. Well-being is expressed. And as you express it, and it's good, what happens? It accelerates. It accelerates. It grows. Why? Because you're in a creative state. You're at ease. We say, let it flow freely to and through you because you're at ease. and then you're creating. We want to create greater good in our life. That's really what we want to do. Now, we have a choice. We can go that way, or we can go that way. That is our choice. Now, some people don't know that. They don't know that they have a choice. They honestly believe the world has given them a bad deal. Some of them blame God. Remember the author that said, God feeds every bird, but he won't put food in their nest. You were given mental faculties. If you develop those mental faculties and start to understand your relationship with your God, you're going to find that you could live a pretty good life. You don't need to stay there. You can move over onto this side. Now, I'm not saying I know all there is to know about this. I certainly don't. I know quite a bit. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. We've got to study. We've got to continue to study. We've got to understand the paradigm, the role the paradigm is playing in our life. It's a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. So think. Really think. Now let's look at this. Here's this power. There's information. It's coming at us everywhere you look. And we have the ability to think. Let's say, I do not want to discuss this. I don't want to sit and dwell on it. I'm not going to ignore it, but I do not want to just sit and read about it. I'd rather read something good. I'm going to tell it to go away. I do not want to do this. My paradigm would have me do this. I do not want to do it. I understand that I was programmed as a child. That's how the paradigm was formed. I was literally programmed to let the outside world control me. Go by what I see, hear, smell, taste, touch. But that's not the way to live. We have these higher faculties, and we should develop them. But here most people today are doing much the same as they did when they were children. That's the way they were born. Now there's the record. I would recommend you go online. Go online, get the recording, The Strangest Secret. Without question, that is one of the 40 minutes of the most phenomenal philosophy you're ever going to listen to. That's what he told me. He says, don't talk about your health unless you're talking to a doctor. That's what most people want to talk to you about, is their health. Don't talk to health unless you're talking to a doctor. That is a phenomenal recording. I got this first, and then I got that record. And it has led to all the books I have. I have a huge library in the house as well as in the studio. I've associated with people all over the world. I work with people that are really in touch with this. Now listen, you have phenomenal powers. You have the ability to create the life that you really want. You can create the life you really want to live. How do you want to live? See, this is where we take our pen and write down exactly what we want to happen to us. How do we want to live? How do we want to think? What do we want to have going on inside? We can do it. Now, I love Buckminster Fuller. He says, you never change things by fighting existing reality. You don't fight existing reality. Is you change things by building a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So true. So good. It's decision time, folks. That's what it is. Make a decision. Make a committed decision of what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And then I have found, if you will bring discipline into your life, it's the ability to give yourself in command and follow it. I was here this morning about 5:30, and I was doing my exercise in my left hand, writing. Then I get into study, and I get into study some rural stuff. If you discipline yourself to study, you're going to be in pretty good shape. We're only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. That's the only limit we've got. Weakness of attention. Give your attention to something that's going to cause you to move in the right direction. I want to thank you for your attention. First of all, make up your mind right now, you're never going to say again, I have difficulty focusing. I want you from now on to say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I easily focus on the good I desire. And that's where you want to go. You have your goal card written out, and you know that if you give the best you've got to what you're doing right now, then you're going to win. You see, the sand represents our life. The sand in the top of the glass is the future. We don't know how much is there. In fact, that's the way it is. You don't know how much is there. Sand in the bottom of the glass is the past. It's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. All you can do anything with is what right here, right now. That's all you've got, is right here, right now. Give the best you've got right here, right now. Keep saying things that mean good things to you. Get involved in self-talk. Odds are you're not going to do it perfect all the time. You're going to get on the wrong track. The trick is do it as often as you can. You know, Hill said, write your goal on a card. I've got a goal card in my pocket. My goal's on the card. When I read toward this end. I don't just read just to read. I read toward a particular end. It's what's written on the card. So if you keep your eye on your goal and keep studying, more often than not, you're going to be on the right side of the ledger. And you will start and you will keep improving that. And it'll keep getting better. But don't expect to do everything perfect. You're not going to do it. First of all, the paradigm you've got, somebody else built, and it isn't going to take you down the right road all the time. It's going to take you around the right road. Sometimes it's not all bad. Some of the paradigm is good. But don't let the paradigm control you. If you will stay in control, you'll be better off.